Hello everyone, this is the last part video on electrochemistry chapter. In this we look at the idea of fuel cells and applications of electrochemistry in terms of the spontaneous chemical reactions happening around us. So spontaneous chemical reactions happening around us, we know that for them the delta G will be negative. And if you think of it like a chemical reaction to be a redox reaction, we'll have the reduction part which can be seen like an cathode. We have an oxidation part which can be seen like an anode, and we will be able to visualize that this is like an electrochemical cell where the del G is negative, means E cell is going to be positive. So we'll see how we can understand the common spontaneous reactions happening around us in terms of the electrochemistry point of view. Now starting with the fuel cell. What is a fuel cell? So if you look at fuels, whether it is the hydrocarbons like methane, ethane, etc., or even other fuels like hydrogen gas. In fact, hydrogen gas is one of the fuels with highest calorific value. This is used in rockets, rocket propulsion, etc. The extraction of energy from the fuels by the normal method of combustion is inefficient for various reasons. One is the combustion will be not complete, so we'll have incomplete combustion. That is one reason. Second reason is that we'll have the energy losses, because if the energy is coming in the form of heat or light, what happens is there will be always energy losses. Some energy may be lost in terms of the loss of energy to the surroundings. Some energy may be lost as the result of the energy getting to some other form, like instead of getting into the heat form, it may get into the light form or some other forms. So there will be always inefficient extraction of energy from the combustion process. So typically if you look at it, we will not even cross like more than 30 to 40%. But a fuel cell is an idea to extract energy out of fuels in an efficient manner. So we can even touch like 70%, and there are working models, though they are expensive, working models which claim to even touch like around 95% efficiency, but they are going to be very, very expensive. So the more efficiency we want to achieve, the expense of that device or setup is going to be more. So what is the concept of an fuel cell? If you look at any combustion reaction, right, what happens? We have a fuel and it is going to react with oxygen, and the final compound is going to be having if you talk about the combustion of hydrocarbons, right, what we are going to have, we will be having CO2 and H2O. These are the products. So the O2 is getting it is basically converting into oxide ions, means there is a reduction happening, and the fuel part will be undergoing oxidation. So if we can have both the phenomena happening in adjacent places, whereas one place which we'll call as cathode, reduction happens, there the oxygen will be converting into oxide ions. At the other place, anode, we'll have the oxidation of the fuel, and we will combine both the ions. As a result, we'll have the final product. And when we are able to take the electrons from the anode, because at the anode oxidation happens, electrons are released. When we take the electrons from anode to cathode through a circuit, we can see the energy extracted in the form of electrical energy, which is a more clean form of energy. So this is the basic idea of the fuel cell. And what we are seeing here is an example of an fuel cell, which is the hydrogen fuel cell. So this is the one that is generally used in spacecrafts, etc. So what is the hydrogen fuel cell? The hydrogen gas will be bubbled and oxygen gas will be bubbled through the porous carbon electrodes. The electrodes here we are having are porous carbon electrodes, and they are bubbled through a solution of sodium hydroxide in water. So they are bubbled through the aqueous sodium hydroxide solution, and the catalyst like platinum and palladium metals are used in the electrodes. The role of the catalyst is basically to so platinum or palladium, they are used in the electrodes to enhance the rate of electrode reaction. So what will be the electrode reaction? At anode, H2 will undergo oxidation. So at anode, H2 will undergo oxidation, and this is going to be losing electrons. and at the cathode O2 will undergo reduction. So O2 will be gaining electrons and it will undergo reduction. So if you look at the overall cell reaction, what is the overall cell reaction? The 4 OH minus ions will be cancelled on either side. 4 electrons will be cancelled. And the reason why we are using OH minus ions is because remember in the redox reaction chapter, if we are balancing chemical reaction in the alkaline medium, because we are having the medium to be a sodium hydroxide alkaline medium, then the balancing of hydrogens and oxygens will involve OH minus ions. That is the reason why we have the OH minus ions. So overall cell reaction is nothing but H2 gas will combine with O2 to form H2O. This is the overall cell reaction, and this is what will be the fuel cell. So fuel cells are efficient way of getting energy out of, instead of normally doing the combustion of hydrogen. If we can extract the energy out of fuel cell, we can see from anode, if we connect an external circuit, we can see that electrons will go through this circuit and we will be able to obtain the electrical form of energy, which is the more clean form of energy. So we will not have losses in terms of light or heat dissipated to the surrounding, etc. So this is what is the working of an fuel cell. And just like the way we are talking about the hydrogen fuel cell, we can have a fuel cell for methane, we can have a fuel cell for ethane, and other things also we can have fuel cells. Now when we look at some spontaneous phenomena happening around us, like the corrosion or rusting, particularly for the corrosion of iron. So corrosion basically means the degradation of a metal by the activity of substances in the surrounding or vicinity. Particularly when we talk about iron, when iron is getting oxidized by the atmospheric oxygen and moisture, that process is what we call as rusting. So rusting of iron we can see in terms of a special category of the corrosion. So what we are trying to see is how we can visualize, because this is a spontaneous process. Rusting is a spontaneous process. We just throw some iron object outside, come back and check even after like 2-3 days, right? We will see that it will be rusted. And what is that rusted iron? It is nothing but hydrated iron oxide. So when we say it is rusted, means it is basically forming hydrated iron oxide. How it is able to form hydrated iron oxide? It is reacting with the atmospheric oxygen and moisture. So if you see the process, iron must undergo oxidation. If you have iron forming Fe2 plus ions, iron is forming Fe2 plus ions, then the reduction potential for that is minus 0.44 volt. For the Fe becoming Fe2 plus, the reduction potential is how much? Minus 0.44. So if you see this, like this is the oxidation, so it must be like what? The anode part. And if the atmospheric oxygen O2 is getting reduced, oxygen getting reduced, the reduction part there, basically the reduction potential for that is 1.23 volt. So this we can see like the cathode equivalent. So we have iron getting oxidized, that is the anode equivalent, and atmospheric oxygen getting reduced, that is the cathode equivalent. If you think of one to be the cathode, other to be the anode, the overall cell potential, right? If you think of it like a cell, what is the overall cell potential going to be? Overall cell potential is going to be, this is the cathode reduction potential minus anode reduction potential, means 1.23 minus of minus 0.44, which is going to be 1.67 volt. So the overall cell reaction, we say that E cell is positive. E cell positive means what? Since delta G is equal to minus NF E cell, the overall process, this is positive, means the overall delta G will be what? Negative. Thereby the entire process becomes spontaneous, and that is what is making the rusting process to be spontaneous. Because if you see it like an electrochemical cell, for that cell the E cell value will be positive, means delta G for the overall cell reaction will be negative. And if you see beyond, what happens, the oxidation of iron will not stop at Fe2 plus. Actually it will be further converting into the ferrous ions, will be further getting oxidized into ferric ions. So that happens because of the again atmospheric air and the moisture content. So Fe2 plus ions will be further undergoing atmospheric oxidation where they will be finally forming Fe2O3, and the hydrated ferric oxide is what we will be calling as the rust. So rust is nothing but hydrated ferric oxide. So the first oxidation is iron becoming Fe2 plus, and that can be seen like the anode part, and oxygen getting reduced is like a cathode part. There itself we are able to see that that is a spontaneous process. Overall process is spontaneous, and the oxidation of iron will not stop at Fe2 plus. Further it will be oxidized by the atmospheric oxygen and moisture. So as a result we will get hydrated ferric oxide, that is what we will call as the rust. And since this is a spontaneous process, it is going to happen if we keep the iron metal as it is in the atmosphere. And sometimes it may be, I mean, not just sometimes, but many of the cases it will be unwanted because it will essentially damage the properties of the iron. So we want to prevent the rusting of iron, or we want to prevent the corrosion phenomena. So how we can prevent the corrosion phenomena? So there are multiple approaches to prevent the corrosion of the iron or rusting of iron, and one such very basic method is to paint the surface by some specific chemicals, where they will prevent the surface of the metallic object from coming into contact with atmosphere, because the overall process is happening because the metal surface is coming into contact with the atmosphere. If we cover the surface of the metal with some paint, like bisphenol. Bis is basically if you have two phenol, then we'll call it as what, bisphenol. So if we have some chemicals like two phenol rings in a compound, we'll call it as what, bisphenol. So if you have specific chemicals which can prevent the metallic surface from getting exposed to atmosphere, then that can actually be a method to prevent the rusting or corrosion. The other method is we have some metals like tin, zinc. They are relatively inert. Like if we can coat the surface of iron by zinc, which we call it as, by the way, galvanization. So galvanization is the process of coating of iron by the zinc, iron surface by the zinc, where this can prevent the rusting of iron. And this way we will be able to, since we are coating the surface with a less reactive metal, then this will be preventing the rusting of iron. And the other method is to have some sacrificial electrode of another metal, which is basically, if we have say a highly reactive metal, like we have magnesium, like that. Usually these are what, highly electro positive metals, like the alkali metals or alkaline earth metals. So if we have an iron object and we keep a magnesium or such very reactive element next to it, what happens is, instead of allowing the iron to react with atmospheric oxygen, the magnesium itself will react. So this is what we call as sacrificial electrode. So before iron goes and acts as an, because remember what is happening, iron is acting in the process, in the entire process iron was acting as an anode, because the iron was undergoing oxidation. So instead of allowing the iron to become like an electrode, the magnesium will become like the electrode, because it will undergo oxidation first. So these are the three popular methods that are commonly used for preventing of corrosion or rusting. So this is how we can visualize any spontaneous process, not only rusting, any spontaneous chemical process happening around us. We can visualize it to be an electrochemical cell, where we have an cathode part, we have an anode part. And this is what is the electrochemistry chapter all about, guys. So what you can do is just look at specific areas, like in electrolysis, look at the Faraday's laws and the conductivity formulae in terms of numericals. If it is the electrochemical cells, look at the Nernst equation and the measurement of cell potential under different conditions, especially in terms of the numerical areas. Theory based questions are reasoning based questions. The end of the chapter topics like the different types of electrochemical cells, primary cells, secondary cells, and the last the corrosion part, as well as the fuel cells. So this will have scope for getting the theory based questions, or the concept based questions. So this is about the electrochemistry chapter, guys. We'll see in the next chapter.